Before we jump right into this episode, I want to take a minute to thank our sponsors of the podcast, Switch Nutrition. Now, more specifically, I want to talk about foundational health. There are so many different supplements out there online and different gurus telling you this and that, but I love to strip it right back to the foundations and what are the things that we can be taking every single day to help with our foundational health. And these products right in front of me are the ones that I take every single day to make sure that I am well equipped to attack the day's activities and make myself feel good throughout the day. It starts in the morning with these two products here, the Hydrate, making sure I am hydrated, and the creatine, all put into a liter of water. Throughout the day, I then go and have this collagen protein within my Greek yogurt bowls that I make, and you guys would see all over my socials. And then to finish off the night, I have the Adrenal, more specifically the chocolate flavor, which is a sleep formula filled with ashwagandha, zinc, and magnesium. And I have a scoop of this 30 minutes before bed in hot water, kind of like a hot chocolate with a little dash of milk, and it tastes amazing and I sleep like a baby. If you want to try out any of these supplements, you can actually go to the link in the show notes or the description below, and it is my collections page on their website, which has all of the supplements that I take and love, and you can use code Chris Griffin and you'll get 20% off your order. Alternatively, you can go to www.switchnutrition.com.au and use the code Chris Griffin at checkout to get yourself 20% off all of these foundational health products that I absolutely love and take every single day. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Morgan, before the show, I got you to write down a quote for me, something that you love, something that came to mind straight away. And out of all of the quotes, you wrote, "Don't take advice from broke and unhappy people." Firstly, can't agree more, but tell me what that quote means to you and why you chose that.
When I was 21 years old, I was a carpenter. I was an apprentice carpenter seeking more out of life. I was going to a job every single day, working 10, 11, 12 hours a day, surrounded by people who were toxic, negative, depressed, going nowhere in life. And this one guy drove on the job site in a brand new BMW. And I asked my boss, I said, "Who's this guy?" And he's like, "This is the developer." I'm like, wow, like he's got a nice car. He looks a lot more successful. How do I become a developer? And then they started to tell me all the reasons why that would never happen. They're like, you can't become that. It's their family and all these things. I got indoctrinated into a life of mediocrity straight out of school. And then a friend introduced me to a guy by the name of Jim Rohn when I was 21 years old. And I started, it's like I was living in a world of black and white. And one day I climbed up over the fence because I was curious, and I peeked over and I saw that on this side of the fence, everyone's living in a world of color. And I tried to convince everybody over here. I was like, guys, they're living in color over here. And they're like, no, you know what you're talking about? All the, you know, the peanut gallery, really. I'm like, guys, I'm serious. And I was on this fence, it felt like, for a long time. And a mentor came up to me. He's still my mentor to this day. And I asked him, I was like, how do you get over, like, how do you really go after this life when you know you've got it? When you know you got it in your vision? You see this world of color. How do you really go after that, but let go of these people here? Like, how do I know who to trust? And he says, Morgan, I'm going to tell you something. Live the rest of your life by this. And I'm like, okay. Don't take advice from broke and unhappy people. I'm like, that's pretty sound. And from that day, I started my first business at 21. And that's where I kind of met him. And I had all these people in the world of color saying, hey, you can be, do, and have anything you want. You can start a business. You can be an entrepreneur. You can have freedom. You can become a millionaire in your 20s even if you want. And then all these people over here saying, you can't do that. Who do you think you are? You didn't even go to university. You barely finished school and all the rest of the things. And it was just so pivotal for me because I really started to look at, because in this world, everyone's going to throw your opinion on how they think you should live. But it's nothing other than their perspective of how they think other people think they should live. And they'll project it onto us. And that was one of the first things I really took on board that helped me decipher between whose advice and opinions do I actually take. Are they really rich? And are they really happy? If yes, even if I don't like the advice, I'll usually lean towards that versus someone who's unhappy and broke, or even rich but unhappy. Because one of my first mentors before this guy was, I used to be a Muay Thai fighter, and I was in the gym, and there was this older guy in the gym. He was in his 50s, quite young-ish, like early 50s, and he was retired. And I asked him one day, I said, how have you retired already? Like, it's quite young, right? Because I thought you're going to be 70 years old, you know. And he's like, well, I've done this property, et cetera, et cetera. This is how I've retired. And every single day I'd come into the gym and I'd ask him a question. I'd say, can you teach me something today? Can you teach me something? What have you got for me? What have you got for me? And one day he turned around to me and said, why would I teach you anything when I've spent all this time and money learning myself? You got to go read. You got to go learn it yourself. Go read books. And my response was, well, I'm fucking dyslexic. Like, what kind of advice is that? And he was the first person to teach me that just because you have money doesn't mean you're going to have a good quality of life. Because I met somebody with money and with freedom, but he was miserable. Like, how much misery do you have to have inside to have a 16-year-old who's ambitious come up to you and say, can you teach me something to be successful? And to turn around and say, why would I give you that? Bro. So that's why that quote's really, really big for me. Don't take advice from broke or unhappy people, because there's a lot of people with a lot of money, but there are souls as well. And I don't think that's a good quality of life.
How did you know you were living in a black and white life though? Because I think most people are living in a black and white. You're saying you peeked over that fence to look and see all the colors. But like, how do you know that? Because if you're not exposed to it, like most people, how do you know there's colors on the other side?
Yeah. How do you know something is sour if you don't know what is, you know, horrible, you know, or like how you need something to contrast something. You don't know this is a black wall without knowing what a white wall is. So I do believe that. But then I remember, I always hate to name even, yeah, but Andrew Tate says this word, and I fucking love it. He says the word perspicacity. And he's like, you got to have perspicacity. And he's, you got to have perspicacity, right? He does these things, right? And I'm like, the fuck is perspicacity? And he's like, the ability to be aware of things that are happening. And that's the thing that most people can just have. Like, most people can be watching this, listening to this right now and actually go, okay, I'm going to make a decision to actually be more, I guess the word would be perspicacious. You're talking to someone who's barely finished school. We can get to that soon, but be more aware of what's actually happening. And since a young age, I've always just been very aware. Like, ask anyone I hang around with, any restaurant I go to, anywhere we go, I'm always just looking at things, wondering, how does this business operate? How do they make money? Like, why? Like, every time I'd pay somebody money, I'm like, what do they do to just get me? I just gave them money. This whole world is about money exchange. How did this person get me to do this, right? So I've always been very curious on these things. But, you know, it was from school, my whole life was just very black and white. But you don't know any different. You don't know what you don't know. So it wasn't until my friend introduced me to a network marketing business at 21 years old. And I had no idea what it was. I thought it was a cult. I thought it was all these things. And he's like, dude, come and have a look at this thing. And that was the first time I saw, that was me peeking over the fence. I was curious for more, because I started to just think, I'm 21 years old. There has to be way more to life than going and working 6 days a week to a job that didn't inspire me. I've got no problem with people being in a job. I think there's probably too many people that are trying to be entrepreneurs that probably shouldn't be an entrepreneur. That you'd be more happy to be maybe an intrapreneur in someone's business and have a great career. So I'm anti people living a life that's not purposeful and fulfilling. And that's what I was doing for a long time. So I just I'd come home at the end of the day and just think, like, there's gotta be more to this. I don't like this. I want to do more. And so that's why I put in my awareness. I was open for more opportunities, and a friend introduced me to a business, and that was me peeking over the fence. I was like, see, I had my goal in my head was I'm gonna retire at 45, because I'm gonna become a builder, a developer, and I'm gonna put in the hard yards for the next 20, 25 years. That's my plan. I'm gonna retire at 45. Then I saw this business end up retiring at 23. I haven't worked a job since I was 23.
The common word I keep hearing there is curious. Mm-hmm. Being curious in your life. I feel like that can stem from quite a young age, being curious. So I can truly understand you, Morgan. Like, let's go back to your childhood and how were you as a kid?
Which part of my childhood?
I want to know this teen area where you're in that early teens, where you're really developing as a boy and as a man. You're hitting puberty. And the reason I asked this specifically is because what I'm finding, and you work with a lot of people, helping them get really inspired and live the lives that they want. But a lot of the time, it's not about like manufacturing something new. It's about just unpacking what we already have. And there's common trends throughout our whole upbringing that we kind of love. And as a kid, like, in those early teens, like how were you? Did you run amok at school? What were the characteristics you had in reflection back then?
Yeah, a lot. I was getting suspended nearly every month. The teacher sat us down in grade 12 and said, if you do anything out of line, you won't go to the grade 12 formal or the graduation. And the only reason I went to grade 12 was for the parties and the girls. That was the only two reasons. I only passed music and PE. That was it. I failed every single other subject. And they were like, if you don't pull your head in and get at least a pass in these subjects, then you can't come to the graduation form. And I'm like, don't you take away the biggest party of the fucking decade, right? I'm like, so I got my shit together and did it. But, you know, I was definitely probably wasn't, I wouldn't have been the most favorite student. Let's just put it that way. But I think if we were to go back to, you know, where we can go so many different ways here. Okay, so let me say a few different things, because in school I would get kicked out of class nearly every single day. Okay, every single report card would say the exact same thing. It would say Morgan has a lot of potential. If he really focused and applied himself, he could go far. But he keeps getting distracted and he, you know, pulls the other students down. So we have to kick him out of class. So I grew up thinking that I was actually a naughty kid. Looking back on it now, what I actually know is I was kind of misunderstood. Because here's what I understand about humans. I'm literally about to run a program next weekend called Advanced Leadership. I take a group of people through for 4 days long on advanced leadership shit. And I'm not talking about here's how to be a good leader or a good manager. We're talking stretching these people to the next version of themselves. So putting them under stressful situations to see how they really perform, then giving them tools and tactics to actually become the best person. And one of the things I teach is what happens is when someone's under stress. So if someone's exposed to a stress, okay, and this could also be referred to as the uncomfortable zone. If we put someone into a state of discomfort, they will hit what's called their threshold. And every single person has a threshold that they're comfortable with. So with you, we're talking about skydiving before. You're like, I don't want to do it, okay? But if I walk you up a ladder, I don't know, are you afraid of heights or no?
A little bit.
A little bit, okay. So
Jumping out of a plane, yes.
So let's say I walk you up a ladder, maybe a little uncomfortable, but you can kind of do it, okay? But if I walk you up the ladder every single day, you eventually, in a couple of weeks, you'd be like, this is pretty good. But then I take you up a ladder twice as big. Scary again. But you would do that for a long time, and a little bit longer, a little bit taller, a little bit taller. Then we go climb the Q1 together, and you get it. Eventually, I'll get you out of an airplane. And you'll be like, actually, this is easy. But we'll work your way up to it. That's how people grow under pressure. When we're learning and when we're growing, when we're at school, we all learn in different ways. It's like the education system is set up like this. It's like getting a monkey, a goldfish, and an elephant and saying, hey, we're going to judge you on your ability to go and climb that tree right now. Go. The monkey's going to go climb and be like, yeah, I'm an overachiever. The elephant's going to not even stay on the ground and just touch it with his trunk and be like, oh, and then they'll say, oh, well, you cheated, not use your strength. And the goldfish will be like, oh, you didn't even try. Come on, man, right? And that, I felt like the goldfish in school. They're like, hey, memorize these tests. I'm like, dude, I don't even know what the letters are saying. Everything's like, it's weird. I can barely read them. And then, so what would happen for me was when they hit this stressful thing, we have about 12 or so different personalities that will come out and play out as a way for us to actually self-soothe and cope with our stress. So every single one of us has a stress coping mechanism. Me, I'm the joker. So when something is uncomfortable or stressful, I will make fun of it. I will crack a joke. That's how I break the ice. Okay, so nothing's good or bad, right or wrong, but there's things that are useful and unuseful. So there's times in my life where being the joker in a really bad situation is pretty good because I can bring some humor, I can bring some light. And there's definitely times where I've been the joker in the wrong situation when people are like, can't you just take this seriously? I'm like, fuck.
I feel like most things is a double-ended sword though, right? There's positives and negatives to a lot of traits.
There's a pendulum. Agree? I think anything in
Yes.
extreme is probably never good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, as you said, the pendulum, if it swings one way, it's got to swing the other. So that's the same with everything. Even when you brought up Tate just before, it's like the media's so swung to the left, and then there's this one, everyone just kind of goes that way, and then there's this one guy that's so far to the right, and then so it's going to swing all the way back that way. It's the same thing.
I think that's how we grow though as well. Because I was thinking about this today. Like there's pillars in which we grow spiritually. There's this thing called spiral dynamics, where we grow through these different consciousness levels. And in order to sort of evolve and properly get to the next level, we've got to experience the edge, I guess. We've got to reject so heavily the one that we're moving into in order to actually fully accept it. So essentially, we've got to absolutely 100% own and reject parts of ourselves that say that is so not me in order for us to actually become that and move into the next thing. But we can talk about that if you want. But back to the school thing, I would hit this threshold. So what I know now is I kept getting labeled as this bad kid in school because I couldn't focus. But the problem is it was just hard for me to learn, right? Because my learning style was different. So every time I got stressed out or uncomfortable, I'd crack a joke, I'd be funny, I'd be the class clown, get kicked out. And I'm like, what the fuck I was doing? I was just dealing with it, right?
I resonate with that one quite a lot though. So that analogy you just used with the monkey, the elephant and the goldfish, love that so much. Do you think, just on that school front, and we won't touch on this for too long, but how do you think they solve that? Like what's the next evolution of schooling to allow for that bit of flexibility?
I'd like to think, I think anyone who listens to podcasts like this, we all like to think that someone will come along and create an education system that fosters creativity, fosters entrepreneurship, mindfulness. And there is some schools like that. There's a school in Bali called the Green School where they actually teach mindfulness and meditation and things like this. And there's some things, unfortunately, I don't think it'll be drowned out because here's the thing, not everybody can become this conscious, aware, entrepreneurial, creative.
Do you know what I think they can do though with schooling? Is I think where it's heading is AI run schools where they have one teacher that maybe facilitates 300 students, and the people that are actually working closely with the students is AI. Because if you think about AI, if you're the class clown, the teacher does not like you. Right? So it's going to resent you. So then when it has to make a decision about you, it's probably going to be more biased towards not going in your favor because the teacher doesn't like you. With AI, there's no emotion being attached to you as a person and there's no resentment. So the AI teacher can actually tailor its teaching style to the kid based on how they learn. And then I reckon what the teacher would be doing is then just basically being the glue to all the students, so the students can still have that social aspect. They can still go around, but they won't be sort of tailored to that climb a tree when you're a goldfish. I kind of see that where that's heading. You mentioned just before though about how you have to let something go to grow into something new.
Yes.
You're saying that. I think I wrote down a quote from you that you wrote something along those lines. You said, your dream life is going to cost you your old life.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that one.
So when I coach people in business, especially if they're early on in the journey, a lot of people think, because they'll hold this idea of what success means. And they see the people with the Gucci and the Lambos and the Rolex and the Dubai, and they see freedom. That's why they want it. We're driven towards freedom. And they'll see this life and they think that, okay, in order to be an entrepreneur and be successful, I've got to have that. So then they try to create this level of freedom now in the current reality without creating it. And they try to kind of hold this, so I want to be successful and I want to go to the beach now and travel and all these things. I'm like, bro, it doesn't happen like that. You've got to, like, one of these things are going to happen. In 5 years, you're either going to be still having this like little bits of freedom but hustle on the side, or you're going to have it completely. Like, you're going to have this life you actually want. But you have to give up what you currently have. You have to give up your current level of freedom to have a new level of freedom. No one I've ever met, I've interviewed thousands of people around the world, millionaires, multimillionaires, billionaires I've interviewed. Not one of them has ever told me that they've never gone through a period of their life called working my ass off, sacrificing things. Every plane has to get off the ground with 100% throttle. It doesn't get off with 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, not even 99. It has to get off with 100% throttle. So we have to fully apply ourselves in the beginning and not be afraid of what we're going to let go. So not be afraid of the people that we might let go of, the ideas in which our friends and family have on us of who they think we should be in their perspective. We've got to really let go of that because, so your new life will cost you your old one. It's going to cost you your old limitations. It's going to cost you your old fears. It's going to cost you your old doubts. It's going to maybe even cost you your old friend group. But it's also going to cost you your old bank account. So every single new area, every new level we're moving into, we can't transition into that without actually being okay with letting go of who we once were as well. If the butterfly was so concerned about becoming a butterfly, it would never become a butterfly. It would stay as a freaking caterpillar. All right. So if it had fears and emotions like human beings do, it'd be like, oh my God, I'm breaking. What the fuck? I'm dying. Right. Like, and it'd freak out and it would stop growing. But it's okay to go through this level of adversity. Like the whole story of a butterfly. I don't know if you heard the story of like this little boy seeing this caterpillar cracking and this butterfly getting its little wing out. And it's got his little wing out. He's like, oh my God, the butterfly's stuck. So he goes over to the caterpillar and he's like, oh, don't worry, butterfly, I'm gonna help you. And he breaks it open and he helps the butterfly get out. And the butterfly comes and stretches its wings and flaps it once, flaps it twice, and falls, and it died. And the little boy was so upset. He's like, what the hell? I just killed this butterfly. He took it over to his mom. He said, Mom, I killed this butterfly. I don't know what happened. She said, well, did you let it come out on its own? She's like, no, I helped him. And she's like, well, son, the reason the butterfly can become a perfect, amazing, beautiful butterfly is because of the adversity that has to go through, because of the journey of learning how to break through its own cocoon, the journey of learning how to break through, and it strengthens its wings through the process like a diamond under pressure. It becomes this beautiful thing because of what it has to actually go through. Once it gets to the new land, it's okay letting go of who they once were. That's the journey of proper transformation. But every room I'm in, I ask people, who is immobilized by fear, hands go up. I say, keep up your hand if one of the fears is success. Hands go up. Keep up your hand if the fear is also fear of failure. Majority of hands stay up. I'm like, so a lot of people get stuck in this paradox of going, okay, well, I'm afraid to actually lean forward and go after the thing I want. But I'm also afraid to go after the thing and maybe fail. So I'm not going to do anything because I'm going to stay exactly where I am. And then we stay in this little loop, right? Which I think, my honest opinion is, someone asked me the other day, they're like, what's your fear? I'm like, it's hard for me to find fears. I jump out of airplanes for fun. I do lots of crazy things. But I'm like, my biggest fear is getting to the end of my life and realizing that I didn't execute on my full potential. And I'm also prepared that that's probably going to be the case because I don't think we can ever actually do it. But the biggest fear for me is to actually get all the way to the end and go far out. I let fear stop me. I let doubt stop me. I let the opinions of little fucking Sally stop me. So that's what really drives me. And I'm very okay with transitioning to a new level, knowing that with every new level is going to come new devils, new opportunities, new growth, new friendships, and most likely having to let go of a lot of those things as well.
Resisting short-term pleasures in favor of something greater. It's that whole thing around people want that, but they don't realize that the price tag to earn that is the shit that you have to go through. And so they kind of want that without the shit, realizing that you can't. It's like pick what you want.
But here's the thing though. The reason people want the thing, let's call it the thing, right? Perfect example. Let's take women and men. Men aspire to have ripped six-pack. They're like, yeah, I want to get ripped six-pack, okay? Women will look at a man with a ripped six-pack and be like, wow, attractive. The reason why it's attractive, it's not because your body looks like a condom filled with walnuts. It's because the primal part of our brain will actually see you as fit and strong and healthy so you can protect and serve, and you can also give me a child. The primal part of our brain is going to see that. But also there's a part of our brain that's going to look at that and go, I know that that body is very hard to obtain. Therefore, a person who has the discipline to obtain something like that is attractive. And women, what they want to go get this amazing, perfect booty. If every single woman in the world had the perfect sculpted booty, we would probably not find it very attractive anymore. We'd be like, well, it's you and everybody else. So because it's hard to obtain, we will see women with a perfect fit body and be like, wow, she's so attractive, because we know the effort they've actually had to go through to get it, but also it's rare. The more rare something is, supply and demand, the more rare something is to get, the more valuable it is. So the reason in which the good life, the dream life, is so desirable is because the average person knows that not everybody can have it. Therefore, they want it. But the paradox is, if they want it, they have to do what most people aren't willing to do. A lot of people used to say to me in my old network marketing company, they'd be like, network marketing doesn't work. I said, how? Like, I built a multiple six-figure profitable business, right? We're doing over multiple seven figures in sales a year. We had 19 countries around the world had customers in. And I did that all by 25 from a beach in Mexico. And I'm like, enlighten me how it doesn't work. Tell me. And they're like, well, only 1%, I've looked at all the stats, because all the stats are public, right? Only 1% of the company actually make more than $100,000 a year. I said, yeah, I would agree. Probably 1% make more than 100K a year. And they're like, therefore, 99% of people don't even make it. Well, hang on, let me reframe that for a second. I don't think it's fair to say 99% of people don't make it. I would say, instead of looking at like on that light, I would say, what did the 1% do that the 99% did not? That's it. We're a byproduct of our behaviors. We're a byproduct of our motivators, our values, our beliefs, and the things that we do. That's it. Because I guarantee you, if you put my work ethic and my diary up against someone who doesn't have the life I have, but they say they want it, and they say, oh, but you've got it easy, I guarantee you it's very different. It's maybe a little different now. Like, I have built a full life of freedom. I'm 30 now. We have 4 companies. We're about to start another. So we have multiple companies, do business all around the world. I'm 30. I have a lot of freedom. But I've created this. I've created this. But when I was 23 living in Mexico, I still lived in Mexico, but I worked 12, 13 hours a day. I'm sure I'd get up, go for a run, go for a surf, do some yoga. Then I'd work from midday to midnight every single day. From 23 to about 27. That's where I got the most momentum in my life.
Yeah, you were talking about how they say, but 99% fail. It's funny because my response in your shoes would be like, not the ones around me. I don't see them. It's like the circle that you're in as well is okay, you're hanging around a part of that 99% that are failures. And it's like you don't really, their eyes probably haven't been exposed, as we said, that black and white life, exposed to the winners.
Yes.
So how are they like, I kind of just go, yeah, like, I don't blame you. Me personally, like, I have so many winners all around me. I don't even see the failures.
And you put yourself in that shoes though. You put yourself there. Like, we connected through social media and I interview a lot of people. So I interviewed you first on my podcast. I was like, I like this guy. But I interview a lot of people and I don't stay friends with majority of them as well. But you put yourself in those shoes because when I come down to Sydney, you're like, you're in Sydney, let's catch up. I'm like, you want to get around other people that are doing it. Like, you actively do it. And a lot of people, they don't do that, right? So someone said to me one time, fortune favors the bold. That was one of the first quotes I ever heard. Fortune favors the bold. I'm like, that is good. So you're telling me if I'm bold and courageous, that fortune will probably follow? It's not a scientific fact, but if I was going to bet on something, I'd bet on that. I'd bet that if you spend the next 10 years of your life being really bold, really courageous, and you put yourself in situations that made you feel a little uncomfortable because you're expanding, I bet if we catch up in 10 years, you're probably doing a lot better than what you are now. I'd bet my bank on it. You know, I wouldn't say publish it in a medical journal, but I would bet.
Yeah, you probably should publish it in a medical journal.
But I want to talk, so the environment, you mentioned about the environment. This is a huge thing because, so I'm writing a book right now called The Dream Out Loud Method. I run a whole 3-day program called The Dream Out Loud Method. Every single thing I do is dream out loud. The podcast, everything's dream out loud. Because this started from me going, how did I go from this complete screw up at 21, 19 years old? I was addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol, tried to commit suicide 2 times at 19, and then took a couple of years to kind of figure things out. 21, started my first business. 23, financially free, millions of dollars online by 28, right? And I'm like, I think there's a few things I did. And I've spent the last 6-7 years really trying to figure that out. And I've brought it down into 4 things, the 4 laws of creating your dream life. And the first one is the right environment. You're talking about the environment. So you're talking about getting into that world of color. That's the first thing, to actually become aware that there is a world of color. But I think people already have that. If they're consuming this content right now, they're already aware. They're already aware that it can be better than where I am. That's why they're here. If they were not here, they wouldn't know that they know this. And then that's okay. They're still in black and white. That's fine. But if you know, I remember nearly quitting everything. Like my business and everything. I was on the job site. I was 22 and I'm like, this doesn't work. Entrepreneurship doesn't work. It's never going to work for me. It fucking sucks. I'll be a builder forever. And I remember nearly quitting and I was like, and it pissed me off so much because nothing was working. But then after having that thought, it pissed me off even more. You know why? Because I realized what it could be. I'm like, I realized what the watercolor is now. I can't go back to black and white. And that fucking pissed me off. But it gave me the edge that I needed to keep going. Because when people say I failed, you quit. and now you're labeling it something that's outside of you, because failure could be blamed on other certain things, but not me. Well, life, partner, this. No, you quit. Take ownership, take responsibility. You quit. Get over it. Get back in.
You quit the long-term vision and the pursuit of that.
Yes.
Because you can have these micro failures, and this is those little times where you get slammed on your face, and it's your job when no one's looking to stand back up and act like everything's all good. But you didn't stand back up there, and you settled for something that's so much easier. You walked back from that path and took the one that's more taken.
Yes, yeah, you took one step down, because I legit, and it's not some motivational shit, I legitimately don't believe in failure. Like, I even think back, I had a vision in my head just then of the worst event I ever ran. Like, we're about to run Dreamfest this year, and we'll probably have like 700 or 800 people at this event, which you gotta come. And it's gonna be freaking gangster. And I already know people are gonna be like, oh my God, such a good event, so good. I'm like, bro, you don't remember the first one I did. The first one I did that we don't even talk about, that I called some stupid ass name, and I had some dude in America threatening to sue me because I took his name. I'm some dude on the Gold Coast trying to put together some event, and I got this huge auditorium thinking that we could get 1,000 people in the room. We sold like 70 tickets, something like that, the day before. And then the day before, we got hit in here on the Gold Coast with the biggest floods we've ever had. And we lost half the audience. We lost half the speakers. The whole event was fucked. And I'm rocking up going, I don't even want to be here today. The weather's so shit. Like, it's flooding outside. And I'm like, this is horrible. And I remember sitting out the back having like a panic attack, being like there's nothing else I can do. I'm like, I can't do anything else right now to impact this event other than get out there and make it amazing. So I got out there and we had like 40 people in the room, and I'm just, in my head, I'm like, I just want this day to be over. But since then, that gave us the good comparison stick. We opened this whole talk being like, how do I know about color if you don't know about black and white? Now I know how shit it can be. So every event that we do, that's great. I have this overwhelming appreciation for it. And I learned a lot through that. So if we have this humility to actually look at things, be like, that didn't go how I wanted it to, but how could I improve it? How can I make it better? We'll learn from every failure. But I want to tell you about this. Here's the biggest thing I think that shapes everyone's destiny. And we're talking about the environment. This is why it's the first law. The first law has to be the environment. Scientists did this study. It's actually called the Ash experiment. And they put 4 lines on a board. 4 lines on a board, and one of the line was significantly bigger. It was like double the length of the others. A, B, C, D. They put 4 people in the room. 3 of them were paid actors. 1 was a real person. And they said to the paid actors, hey, you have to circle A. Okay? And they all go into the room and they said, okay, guys, what you need to do in this test is go and circle the line that stands out from the rest. So the actors circle A, and it's clearly the wrong answer. The real guy looks at them and they're like, what the hell? Like, the psychedelic testing is next door, right? It's C. The answer is C, clearly. It's double the size. And they didn't think anything of it. They reset it. They did it again. They select A. The other guy, he starts to doubt himself a little bit. He's like, what the hell? No, it's C. And they did it again. They did it again. They did it again. By the time they get to the 4th, 5th, 6th time, they've done this test hundreds of times now. Before they get to the 4th, 5th, 6th time, guess what happens? The real person selects A. Doesn't blink an eyelid. He just goes, yeah, it's A. And what they've shown is that we will essentially give up on our truth. We'll give up on our dreams. We'll give up on what we know is true to fit in with the pack. Because if we think back 2 million years ago, when were we the safest? When we're with the group. If we're on our own, we're dead and we're not going to reproduce. The whole sole purpose 2 million years ago was mate, reproduce. So if I'm by myself, I'm not going to find a woman. I'm not going to find a man. I'm not going to be able to reproduce. I can't, right? So I'm going to give up on what I know is true. I'm going to stay with the pack. So this is our primal brain. People think they can actually choose. People think they make decisions consciously, and majority of all their decisions are completely made, not even unconsciously, but subconsciously. Like, most people's decisions, even though they think they're doing something because I want to do this, probably not. You've probably been completely manipulated from a very primal thing in your brain, because the biggest thing you want to do is avoid pain or avoid not being in a group, avoid not being loved. So you're probably making decisions because if you're like, oh yeah, I'd want to buy that, you probably didn't actually decide that you want to buy that. You probably decide you want to buy that at a very unconscious level because you think if you get that, you're going to be more accepted by the people who you're trying to get love from.
And that strips back all the way to what you said at the very start about your biggest fear is looking back and realizing that you haven't reached your potential. It's because you're making decisions from other people and trying to fit in for other people, what your parents want out of your life and all of these other people just so you can fit in, because that's, as you said, primal back in the day. That's what we did. I want to go back that little bit when you were talking about your first event, the shitter, and then the big event you're going to be running at the end of this year. Is I've been pondering a lot on the concept of overnight success. And it gets thrown around all the time and like this whole thing, like you're an overnight success. But reality is overnight success doesn't even exist. I think it's very rare, at least extremely rare, for you to be an overnight success, because for anyone to catch interest in you, to blow up in a business or to have the knowledge or whatever it's going to take to be an overnight success, you've probably had to go on through a process of shit and a process of challenge to overcome that. What are your thoughts on overnight success?
Oh, it doesn't exist. Really, I'm trying to think of something that people don't already know. But, you know, there's so many examples. I think my most favorite example is at the moment is Matt Rife. You know Matt Rife, the comedian? 14
years or whatever it was.
He shared a story. He's like, man, I hate social media so much. He's like, and I shouldn't say that because it made me famous because I was, and he said, he's like, he was so close from actually quitting. I think it was 10, 11, you said 14. It was at least a decade he was doing. At least a decade. Clubs, sharing his jokes, nothing. Started TikTok, shared some things. Now he's probably the number one comedian in the world. I would think he's at least top 3 or 5.
He just sold 600,000 tickets on his tour.
Bro, I don't know anyone doing it better than that.
Yeah.
Like you got Jimmy Carr, he's absolutely crushing right now. But Jimmy's been around for decades. But I don't know, you know, then you got the Kevin Hart's been around for decades. And it feels like these guys, even look at Kevin Hart, he had this huge Netflix show. He's been around for a long time, but even for me, it kind of feels like he's really popping lately. But he's been probably 30, 40 years. So it's funny. I was listening to an audio on the way here. It's like, it's not about, there was a story of this really wealthy man and he only had one wish. He's like, when I die, I want all of my wealth to go to my long lost grandson or whatever the fuck, somewhere far down, right? Never met each other. So one day this guy, this little Johnny, let's call him little Johnny. He gets a phone call. He said, hey, little Johnny, you have this great uncle. I don't know how that exists, but you have this great uncle. He just passed and he's left you all his wealth. He's like, oh my God, it's amazing. How do I get it? He goes, well, he's just got one thing you need to do in order to get all the wealth. He goes, great, tell me, I'll do it. Great, all you need to do, you need to fly over here to where we are. We're in the middle of the Middle East somewhere. Come over here. Okay. And he gets on a plane and he gets over and he realizes that where the plane actually lands is still a few countries over from where he needs to go. He's like, can't I go there? He's like, you can get there, but here's what you need to go. Here's what you need to do to get there. You need to get a bus through this country. You need to go and speak to these people. You need to change currency here. You need to go through this land, cross this bridge, fight this dragon, conquer this land. And then once you do all that, you'll get to where you need to go. So he does all this stuff and he goes through years and years. He goes to trials, tribulations, failures, because he's thinking, I'm going to get all this wealth. And he goes through all these setbacks and failures and near deaths and growing. And he had 3 wives on the way. And he finally gets there one day and he meets this old man. The old man says, welcome. He goes, well, I've been on this journey for the last 10 years. He said, where's this wealth? He says, look at who you've become. That's where your wealth is. That's what your great guy, uncle, wanted to give you. The real wealth is the person you become in the journey, not the money, not the outcome. And I think because I've had lots of wise mentors and coaches along the way, I've kind of avoided that. But you make money. I always say fast money builds ego, slow money builds character. So don't be afraid for it to take a decade. To really make it anything, it's gonna be a decade. Like it's gonna. I'm sure you even feel like that. Like you're crushing on social media, but I know you'd still feel like I haven't even scratched the surface.
100%. But I think what's a really cool thing to talk about off the back of that is what actually matters. Like what is the number one thing that we are doing everything for? And I kind of look at that and I go, it's not the destination, because you get there and there's always another one. You're never happy. It wears off. Is it the journey? People say it's not the destination, it's the journey. And you go, okay, is it the journey, or is it the characteristics that we build on that journey then? It's not really the journey and all the experiences, the person that we become by going through that journey on that goal. So I feel like it's like the goal is so important because you need to have somewhere to aim. That's really important to get to shoot towards something. But then the journey's that process that has the challenges, the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, the ugly. But it's when you get to the end and you get to that destination, it's the character that you've become that actually holds the value, as you said in that story.
Yeah, like that's the whole wealth. Because if I said to anyone listening to this right now, like, what's your goal in the next 12 months? People like, I want to make $1 million. Great. Not even 12 months, let's say the next decade. What's the goal in the next decade? What's your goal in the next decade? If you could have any wish you want, income, fame, whatever it is, what's in the next decade for you?
Just want to have a loving, romantic relationship and a family that I can take the kids to school. That's kind of my goals. Do you want me to give you more of like I want to write a book or something like that?
Well, whatever. If you want this family, but I'm assuming it comes with a lifestyle, right?
There's a lot of different things that I want 100%. I think
like, do you want to have the freedom to be with your family, or do you want to be going and working a job?
Well, I think for me, retiring is not really a concept that plays in my mind very much, because for me, it's just like doing meaningful work is important. Yes. And I think I'll always be doing that.
Great. Okay. So if I said to you, all those things you want, that vision you just created, the amazing family, taking them to school, having the freedom to create, if you had all of that tomorrow when you wake up, would you like that?
Probably for 3 months.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's fleeting. It'd be fleeting. And I think and I know where this is going, because for me, I just resonate with it so much, because I've been through so much shit in my journey where now, like, every time I get slammed on my face again, I just laugh, because I just go, it's all painting the story. It's all painting the picture.
I always say, this would make a good story.
It's so funny. It's like, you can't just skip chapters. That's not how life works. Like, you need to read every line. You need to meet every character. You need to have those days where you want to cry. And there's those chapters that you just don't want to end, those amazing ones. Because as you just said before, it's like one that's worth reading. The best books are the ones that have good and bad, highs and lows, laughs and cries, all the rest of it. The best books are the ones that take you on that journey. And I think when we recognize that our life is this book that we are writing, when we go through the shit, we're making a more interesting story. But then also we have something to compare the good to. It's the number one thing. It's like the more shit we go through, the higher the highs are going to be. And that is what we're chasing. It's like, you say, what are the dream? What do you want? I'm going to tell you all the highlights I want. But if I'm sitting in that penthouse with the automatic blinds that open up as the sun is rising and my wife taps me on the shoulder and says, "Good morning, babe." Like, when I'm experiencing that, I need to have the time where I slept on a mattress with my best friend in a studio apartment to actually appreciate it.
You personally, yes, because you've gone through that. I wouldn't necessarily say it's part of it, though. Like, I think like, I think because we've been so indoctrinated by these people's rags to riches stories. But for the person who's sitting there being like, because I've met people, right, who go, well, I had a great upbringing. My family is still together. I'm a straight A student. I went to university. Like, can I be successful? Like, yes, you can. You don't have to sleep on the floor. You don't have to, there's a lot of these stories like that, but it doesn't have to be it, right? But we'll go through these different trials and tribulations, but their perception, I have a perfect example. My girlfriend's friend is that person. Her family is one of the most, like, movie quality families, most beautiful families you could ever imagine. And so loving and amazing. And the other day she calls us and I'm like, well, how you been? She's like, oh, we're good. I've been seeing a therapist. I said, oh, what for? She goes, oh, just my childhood trauma. And I'm like, bitch, what fucking childhood trauma, man? Like, we just joked about it. I'm like, it's just so funny, because it's like everybody has trauma, their perception of it. Some people have gone through, I've had people in my room that have been raped at a young age, 12, 13 years old. And I've had some people have been like, well, I made up a story that my dad didn't love me once because he was 10 minutes late to my graduation from Yale University.
It's all relative, though. And I guess it's
the
all
meaning
relative.
in which an individual will actually give it to themselves.
And that's why for me, I look at it and go, when I look at that success thing of the automatic blinds opening up as my wife taps on the shoulder, says, "Good morning, babe." Like, what am I comparing it to? I'm comparing it to the shit times and the struggles where it was Sunday night, rent was due tomorrow, and I don't know how I'm paying it. All of those things, I think, build this character that I can then look back on, and then when I achieve those goals, I'm proud of them. Like, I know I've been through this shit, and I sit there and I go, yeah, like, I deserve this.
It'll pass though. You're 22,
Yeah.
bro. It'll pass.
But what do you mean it will pass?
It'll pass. It's motivating you at the moment. It's motivating you at the moment to be like, what I'm doing, there's a chip, which motivates many people. We're motivated by pleasure or pain. There's something motivating you to be like, I want to fucking do this so then I can do it for myself or for a dad. Most males try to prove themselves to their dads unconsciously. But you're either doing it for, I want to prove myself to the kids or the teacher or the dad, or maybe it is just to yourself to be like, I want to wake up one day and be like, I'm so fucking proud of me. And that's amazing. You should. But one day the comparison will stop.
I don't think it's why I'm doing it. I think what I'm saying is when I achieve these little things, the reason I appreciate them in the moment is because of them. As you said earlier, if I got given it all today, would I love it?
Yes. Yeah. The main reason we should seek the appreciation, because I said to you, I'm like, if you could have it tomorrow, would you like it? After 3 months, no. The reason you won't like it anymore is because you're like, well, I didn't grow. We are like trees. If we're not growing, we're dying. The main thing, I think, that as ambitious people, we want this massive freaking goal, so we continually keep stretching and discovering, like, how much of my potential can we actually actuate on and bring into this reality. I've heard Gary Vee even say, he's like, I know the day I buy the jets will be the worst day of my life, because that's his biggest thing he's chasing. And he goes, I know the day when I buy the New York Jets, I'll be like fucking miserable because now it's here. What really gets him going still is the pursuit of that. Because someone asked me the other day, what's your dream? I'm like, honestly, I'm living it. Legit. Like, everything I have right now, that was the dream life I created. I'm like, I should probably create it bigger now. I'm sure there's a little bit bigger. But now it's like, for me, what really gets me going every single day is the things that I do. I get on stage. I speak around the world. I get to interview amazing people. I get to change people's lives. We transform people's lives 3-4 days at a time. Like, teaching them all the things that got me to where I am. So what's happened now, I'm no longer living in a world of comparison, although I try not to, because comparison is the thief of all joy. Because in the moment that we can actually go, well, compared to where I have been, I'm so proud of this, we'll naturally, if we're building the muscle of comparison, we'll also compare, whoa, I'm still not where Bobby is though. Bobby's way fucking better than me. Oh, I suck. This house not even that big. Yeah, I should be in a bigger skyrise. I should have a hotter wife, right? Whatever it might be. The comparison will continually keep going until we evolve into another level, which is just pure acceptance.
Yeah, I think you can always compare though. Like there's
Can
always, I feel like.
We can, but is it useful?
No, and that's why he's saying it's a thief of all joy.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think it can be hard at times, especially when you're striving towards something.
Yeah.
And with social media, right?
100%.
Like you've got this ability to be able to, in a couple of buttons, look at someone that's doing better than you instantly. And you can be anywhere in the world, you can be on the shitter and looking at this and you're like, fuck man, like my toilet doesn't have this view over the city. I need to do better.
So there is no problems at all in this universe. There's only stories that are unuseful. That's it. And the same mentor who told me, don't listen to broken, unhappy people, also told me that stop attaching stories to events that happen. Because every event that happens in our life that we add a story to, will create a negative meaning to, which, by the way, like, we're humans, this is what we do. We're meaning-making machines, especially the younger age, 0 to 14, massive meaning-making machines. We create meaning out of everything. We attach meaning and emotion into specific events. But the moment we do that, we now look at it only through the lens of limitations. We look at it through the lens of doubt, insecurities, what did you say before? Comparison. And through that, then we create problems. So the problems there is people's trauma. People are like, well, I have this problem. Okay, what happened? Well, I was sitting at my 38th level penthouse overlooking New York's, what do you call the
Times Square?
No. All the grass and shit.
I don't know.
I don't know what you call it. Central Park. I was overlooking Central Park and I was just wondering to myself, why can't I be in that building in Billionaires Row on the 100th floor? Oh my God, I'm such a loser. Right? Event happened. then we will shift our perspective. We'll change the emotion. We'll put an emotion, we'll put a meaning to it, which will then create a problem in our life. I'm still not good enough. And it's our brain is so complex, like a huge, gigantic onion that remembers everything. And it's our goal is forever to actually go through and forever just be peeling back the layers of the onion and seeing what's really there, what really makes us up. So my kind of goal is to, and it's a habit. Like, dude, when I was 22, like I was still working a freaking job, still working a job at 22. But when now it's a habit. Like, even my partner will say to me, she's like, you just don't really care. Oh, my other business partner, actually, Jess, she's like, she'll calls me up the other day. Hey, Mark, are you having a good day? I'm awake. I'm living the dream, baby. What's up? And she's like, I was going to let you know, the sales closer that we just put in the business, they've had a problem and we've just had to sack him. I said, okay. And she's like, oh, but we're going to put another one in. He's going to start tomorrow. Amazing. I said, do you like the new guy? She's like, yeah, he's awesome. Oh, cool. Anything else? And she's like, no, but like, she's just so fucking chill about it. I'm like, what's my other option? Get pissed that we lost 2 days of productivity in the business? I don't give a fuck. Business is meant to have problems. I just get better at dealing with them. I'm like, she's like, man, I wish I could just be as chill as you. It's a muscle I've just built. I just accept things. And my question I always ask now, whenever anything goes wrong, I just go, that's so interesting.
Michael Lane, one of my mentors, the CEO of Forbes Australia, he said earlier on in his career he used to have bad months.
Yeah. Later
on in his career he used to have bad weeks. Then he had bad days. Then he had bad hours, and now he has bad minutes.
Yeah, bad moments, man. That's it. Yeah. Like I have some shit moments sometimes, and it's like and then 3 seconds later, okay.
It's just like okay, what's next?
Yeah, and it's like, and one day my partner said to me, she's like, "What are you doing today?" As she's going to work, and I'm like, "What do you mean?" Now I'm not a morning like in the morning, my brain's still working right until like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. Don't ask me any questions before 10. And so she's asking me all these questions because she's like super awake. She's like, I'm doing this today. What are you doing today? And I'm like, I don't fucking know yet. Like, I haven't even looked at my diary. Like, I don't know. She goes, yeah, but like, what are you doing? I'm like, working. And she's like, but what are you doing then? I'm like, legit solving any problem that comes across my desk. I'm like, so I'm just preparing myself when I turn my phone on to be hit with all the fucking problems from all the companies and all the things, someone fucking something up somewhere. That's my day today. And she's like, oh. I'm like, yeah. And then I kind of was so delusional. This is only recently. This is like maybe 6 months ago. I'm like, oh, when I do this, when I hire this person, when I set up this software, then it's all going to go away. Then the problem's going to go away. And I got so delusional thinking that a problemless business or a problemless life would ever exist. And I remember in the moment, this is 6 months ago, I'm like, oh. And I breathed and I'm like, it's never going to exist. Ever. But what's going to happen is I'm going to become a better person. If I'm a level 5 person and there's a level 3 problem, that's a small problem. But if I'm a level 1 person and a level 3 problem, that's a big fucking problem. I was talking to my friend the other day. He does like 1.5 mil a month. And he says to me, he's like, dude, I went for my PT session the other day and my PT comes in wearing his PT clothes and he was so angry. He's like frustrated. And Sash looks at him, he's like, you're right. He's like, no. He goes, what's happening? He goes, man, I've had the worst week of my life. He goes, what happened? He goes, well, look at me. He's like, what? He's like, look at the clothes I'm wearing. You're in your uniform. I don't get it. I don't get it, man. Tell me what's happening. He goes, these clothes are 2 days old. Haven't even washed them. And he's starting to think like, well, why don't you wash your clothes, right? And he goes, my washing machine broke this week. And he says to him, is that it? He goes, yeah. And he's like, I don't know if you know Sasha, but he's like, he goes, can I give you some advice, man? You need bigger fucking problems, bro. And I'm like, dude, that's so sound. That's some great advice. Jim Rohn says, like, don't wish life was easier, wish you were better. That was one of the first quotes I ever heard from Jim Rohn. I used to listen to 56-minute recording from him every single day on the drive to work. Don't wish life was easier, wish you were better. So I continually go through this process of just accepting everything just is, and then I have the option to come over and attach a story to it. If I attach a story, I'm creating my own problems. So my goal is to still live in a life that's problemless. That's the goal still. And I know that every event that happens, every washing machine that breaks, every person who quits, everything that goes wrong is just an event, but it means nothing until I come along and fuck it all up. So I just accept it as is, objectively. And I'm like, isn't that interesting?
Well, Goggins talks about callousing the mind. I think that's all it is. It's like going through more shit, and instead of the calluses on your hands from lifting weights, it's your mind. You're strengthening that. And that the way you callus it is by pushing its boundaries, is by making something weak stronger. And so you're going through more shit, dealing with bigger problems. It's like even when I strip back to some of the hardest conversations I've ever had. It's like when I walked into that, I said on your podcast a year ago, whatever it was, when I walked into the boardroom and I was 17, I had to say to the investors, we're hanging up the boots. Like that's a hard fucking conversation. But now all of a sudden a hard conversation is relative to that. Yes. So it's like the conversation that is hard for a level 1 person is not hard for a level 3 person, as you just said. I like this level concept. That's quite cool because it's just like, no, the problems are getting bigger, but you're dealing with them at the same rate. Like, so you're basically just leveling up. Yeah, you're becoming better.
Yeah. It's like, it's stress regulation, really. It's like problems are stressful. But if we can learn how to regulate our nervous system, so that's what we do. It's at advanced leadership. We put them into weird situations. They're just simulated situations to see how they react. Then we teach them how to regulate the nervous system and expand their nervous system to a larger container that can actually withhold bigger problems in life. Because if you solve big problems, you get paid big checks, right? So like you'll be paid in direct proportion to the problems that you solve for somebody. So if you're getting like immobilized because you work at McDonald's and the drive-through thing has gone too long and it's like shutting you down your nervous system, you're never going to be able to run a business. You're probably not going to be able to become a great parent because your kids are going to be psychopaths. Like I'm already kind of preparing for that. I'm preparing for when we used to have these crazy little shits that don't stop. Like, you know.
I reckon when you say the bigger the problems are, the more money you get paid. I think there's a few other things to that though. It's like, okay, how many other people are doing it? So how easily can they get that problem solved? Because if they can get that solved by 100 other people, then all of a sudden you're not getting a big check for that because of supply and demand, right?
Well, there's 4 areas that determine the law of income. There's only 4 things that will determine how much money you make in this world. And if you bring it down to these 4 things, you'll make as much money as you want. The first thing is, there's 3 things. There's 3 things that is the law of income, right? So the first thing is the need for what you do. There has to be a need. So if we look at a basketballer, who's the most highest paid basketballer? Let's say a Michael Jordan, okay? Is there a need for a Michael Jordan in the world? Yeah. Okay. And I don't know anything about sports. I don't even think he plays anymore. But let's just say I think he's like one of the highest paid, right? Was there a need for Michael Jordan? Yeah. Now let's look at a nurse. Is there a need for a nurse in the world? 100%. Who's got a bigger need? Probably a nurse. Like if you ever go to a hospital and there's no nurses, you fucking need one. Entertainment is luxury. This is necessity. But why is the price difference so big? Well, because there's 2 other levels. So the need for what you do. The next one is your ability to do it. Can Michael Jordan do the game of basketball really good? Yeah, he's really freaking good at it. Better than the rest. So he gets paid a little bit more than the average player. Then we look at the average nurse. Her ability to do it. His ability to do it. If they did their job 10 times better than the other nurses, will they get paid more? Not really. Maybe you've been there 10 years, they give you a couple dollars extra, you're a senior nurse or something now. Maybe, but not significant, not to like break the bank, right? So why is the gap so big still? Because the third area is the difficulty it is in replacing you. That's it. How difficult is it to replace Michael Jordan? Fucking hard. So he gets paid the most. How difficult is it to replace Sally, the nurse, at the local hospital? Very easy. Unfortunately, very easy. So this is just the way, this is the universal law, like the law of attraction.
I reckon if you strip it back, there's that is like as you're saying there, like how rare is your skill set and how easily replaceable is it? That's the factor. But I reckon there's a money equation where you go, the amount of money you make is equal to the amount of people, the amount of value you're providing multiplied by the amount of people you're providing that value to. So if you take the example of Michael Jordan, the basketballer, and then the nurse. So, Djokovic, let's use this example. I've figured this out before. Djokovic gets paid 500 times the average nurse. the tennis player. He gets paid 500 times the average nurse. The nurse is saving lives. Djokovic is entertaining people, millions of people all around the world for an hour in a tennis match. And you go like this, okay, he's changing lives. So if you plug it into that equation, the amount of money you make is equal to the amount of value you're providing, multiplied by the amount of people you're providing that value to. The nurse is saving lives.
Yes.
Massive value.
Mm-hmm.
Djokovic is not saving many lives. He's just providing a bit of entertainment, but he's over millions of people. So then that's how he makes more money.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, when you tie on the piece of how unique the skill set is.
But the reason he can do that is because he's hard to replace.
100%.
Like other tennis players could do the exact same thing if people wanted to play. And this is like, I'm talking about something controversial here because I was listening to something on the news the other day and they were talking about female soccer teams here in Australia. And they're like, we demand, like, we should get paid more. And I was watching, I'm like, I agree, sister. Like get paid, right?
I agree,
but then I was
sister.
thinking, I'm like, well, what determines someone to get paid on a professional sports team? Viewers. And the thing just, more people watch men's sports than female sports. That's just the reality.
100%.
And they were kind of having this debate, and the women were like, yeah, they should get paid more. And the other guy on the show, I really forget who this was, but they were like having this argument. And he's like, if you want them to get paid more, go and watch the sport then. Like, she's like, do you watch the soccer? No, I don't. Then fucking watch it then. Because if more people watched it, they could get paid more. Because that's just the way it is.
I think
the audience will determine that of how irreplaceable somebody is. So if we look at,
it's not even irreplaceable though, because they can't replace, it's not about replacing. Like a female athlete that's at a real high level is still hard to replace because it's not like there's an abundance of them.
And they'll get paid in proportion to the rest in that category.
Yeah, I think you just go, okay, into that argument, because I 100% agree with you. It's like, no, they shouldn't get paid more. Try and find a sponsorship that will pay the same amount in women's than they will pay in men's, because that's what pays the bills. You can't do it. And so that's kind of how it works. Take Jake Paul, for example, who got Amanda Serrano, who's like, he signed her to Most Valuable Promotions, and she's the highest paid female boxer because he got more eyes to the show.
Yes.
She was the first like millionaire boxer or whatever in female sports, but she literally had filled stadiums because of the way they promoted her, and people actually were really excited to go watch her. Get more eyes to the sport, make more money.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Attention is currency.
Yeah.
But I'll like the thing, like if people are wanting to make more money, it's like, this is the thing I teach all the time. It's like, essentially become irreplaceable. Become so damn good that people will pay you what you ask for. And because that's like, if I work with people one-on-one, I don't really do one-on-one because I don't like it, to be honest, but I'll usually just try and solve all the problems in 90 minutes, right? And I'll charge $6K for 90 minutes. And I was playing golf with someone the other day, and one of my mates actually owns like one of the biggest donut chains here in Australia. And he goes, how much is it for one-on-one? I'm like, $6K. He's like, how do you charge that? I'm like, well, I'll give you an example. The other day, I had a one-on-one with somebody, and because of the last decade of experience and knowledge and things I have in my tool belt, she had major limiting beliefs that were stopping her. I changed some of them. And then I just tweaked a few digits and numbers in her business, and the next 12 months, she'll do about $85,000 extra without changing anything in her business. He's like, oh, that's how I charge $6. Easy.
Well, it's not about how easy it is to drill the hole. It's about filling the hole. It's about finding where the hole is. There's this analogy of this massive cruise ship, and the motor broke down. And they couldn't figure out how to fix it. They had all these people come in, try and fix this motor on this cruise ship. Cruise ship's multi-million-dollar thing. The motor on it's multi-million dollars, and they had to try and figure out this. There was this problem with it, and then this guy comes in, and he goes, "Yeah, I can fix it for you, but that'll be $2 million." And they go, "Okay, well, no one else has been able to fix it." And then anyway, he fixed it, and it took him 10 minutes. And he's like, it's not, and they're like, how can you charge $2 million for 10 minutes? And he goes, it's not about how long it took. It's about I knew where to work and how to fill that hole that was in the motor. And so it's that same thing around you. It's like, how quickly can you identify the problems in a business and get them to fix it? This is my price. Are you willing to pay that price for this outcome?
Yeah.
Yes, no, maybe so. If not, then that's okay because there's others. That's fine. And if there isn't others, then you need to have a real assessment of your business and go, okay, am I actually providing value? Is this fair exchange?
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. I want to ask you one more question, and then we're going to just dive into a couple little quotes that you put on your Instagram. But the final question is literally about your business. We've been talking about it all the time for people that are itching to know. You're like, everything's dream out loud, dream out loud, dream out loud. I want you to give me a tiny little overview about what you do and the pillars in your business. But then B is, where did it start? You've told me before we were having a beer at the pub, and you're telling me about your multi-level marketing experience, and then you went out and then you told me about this other little venture that made all this money, and then you thought, boom, I need to start this. But where did that start, and what do you do today?
So what we do today, my primary company is education, essentially, right? So I run seminars. We run seminars like transformational seminars because I used to work with people one-on-one and get gangster results in life. But the problem was I could only see one person at a time. And I love speaking. I love teaching. So I just get so lit up about is people coming and spending a whole weekend with me. And I literally, so at my 3-day event called the Dream Out Loud Method, it's the most transformational program I think is out there. It's insane. It's absolutely insane where people go through this sort of journey in the weekend of really designing their ultimate dream life. Right? Design their ultimate dream life that's in alignment with their purpose, their highest values. Then we work backwards from it and recalibrate their whole freaking mind. We get rid of inner conflicts, self-doubt, procrastination, self-sabotage, all these sorts of things. And I heavily work with the unconscious mind because we have a conscious mind and unconscious mind. The conscious mind is the goal setter, but the unconscious mind is the goal getter. Most people are only working with the conscious mind. They're like, I'm going to write my affirmations, and over time through auto-suggestion, it'll come into the unconscious a little bit. But what if we could do that in 3 days? 3 days. People sit in a room for 40 hours with me for 3 days, and it's insane. It's like, and then at the end of it, sometimes people are like, oh, I'd be so tired at the end of it. They finish day 3, they barely slept at all, and they've got more energy than they had on day 1, right? Because when we start to let go of all the bullshit holding us back, we start to have a lot more energy in life as well. So
how do you tap into that subconscious mind?
Through power of many things, my little tool belt I have. But we use a lot of hypnosis, a lot of language, man. Words create worlds. So like everything you're saying right now, we've been talking a lot about contrast. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about contrast. So if I compare something you have to something else, I can change your perspective of how you view a problem. Let me give you an example. I was talking with my new business partner. We're about to start a whole new division of like gangster health stuff. He's a doctor of osteopathic medicine, one of the smartest people I know when it comes to like health. We're about to join up and create this gangster new business. We're going to do entrepreneur health retreats where he's working on me right now. He's dialing in my DNA, my health, my bloods, everything. I'm more healthy than I've ever been. And I said to him the other day, I said, there's a package for you, $25,000 for someone to work with you for a year where you do all these things. And he's like, $25,000? Like, how can I charge that much money? So let me ask you a question. If someone worked with you for a whole year, do you think they could live one day longer probably? I know you can't make claims, but do you think you could help them maybe like live a day longer? He's like, a lot longer than a day. I said, just one day though, just one day. Because you make them live one. Yeah. I said, cool. If I gave you $25,000 today, but you couldn't live tomorrow, would you take it? He's like, no. What if I gave you $500,000 today? Would you take it? No. $10 million today, but you can't live tomorrow. Would you take it? No. So what you're telling me is one extra day in your life is worth at least $10 million. He's like, yeah. I said, and you can't charge someone $25,000 to help them live at least one more? He's like, yeah, true. Good. So 25 grand. So I changed in his mind through words for a quick conversation, completely how he viewed himself to that 25K and changed his whole programming to it. The contrast he put to it to be like, well, actually, yeah, I can change people's lives. That's cheap. So in 30-second conversation, he went from being like, that's expensive to that's really cheap and affordable.
I guess it's perspective, right? It's literally like we keep going back to it, but it quite literally is. Because
all problems exist because we're viewing it through our eyes. That's it. We view all our problems through our lenses, and we put on these filters, and the only world we know exists.
Sometimes we're standing in front of this black wall, and we just need to take like a massive step back, and all of a sudden we just start seeing all more around us.
Or if you jump onto the other side of the wall and you see that the wall's actually not painted black, it's painted white.
Perspective.
Right?
It literally is, yeah.
Like a lot of come
Climb
away with all
over
our
the
secrets.
wall.
But like through 3 days, it's a lot of linguistically changing a lot of people's perspectives on how they view problems. We do a lot of hypnosis things, but a lot of what I do, I work with people on a really deep unconscious level and changing their values. The values are some of the biggest motivators in our whole psyche. We will do whatever is in emotional alignment. So everyone listening to this, watching this right now, they're consuming this content because they probably value growth, money, success, or health, something like this, right? If you don't value on those things, you don't listen to these types of content. You don't consume it. But we often live in our world where like I value love, success, fun. They're my 3 highest values. So everything I do is about loving people, integrity, having a lot of fun, a lot of success, growth, money, all these things. But it's not in anything like health. I've had to raise up. That's why I'm dialing this in right now. But it used to be not as low, not as high. Okay, so I wouldn't be naturally attracted to things like this if I didn't value success. I wouldn't be wanting to do business with really cool people because all my companies now are split between business partners where I just like to do good business with good people because I value love, right? It's a high value of mine, so I lean towards this. People have different values. Let's say if, and there's always someone, right, listens to a podcast like this, and they try to share it with that one person in their life who they're trying to just change. Like, if you just listen to this podcast, it would change your life. But they don't want to fucking change. Why? Because they just don't value growth, and that's okay. That is so okay.
So you're saying that we all know what is important and the values. Like we know the thing, but we're not willing to do it. And is that because of the values that we have? Is that what you're saying then?
Part of it. Let me give you an example. So let's say, perfect example, we're motivated by pleasure or to avoid pain. That's it. Everything our brain is doing is to move us closer to a world that's more comfortable and enjoyable or move away from something that's uncomfortable and perceived pain. So everyone has a goal, has a dream to live on the beach, palm trees, cocktails. Like, who doesn't have a dream like that? Like, one day I just live on an island. Like, I think everyone's always had something like total freedom, most romantic relationships, sexy body. But how many people have that life? Not many, right? But if it was, because that's pleasurable. Like, oh my God, that'd be so amazing to have that life. But if that's the only thing that motivated us, then we'd all have it. Because then what comes into play is unconsciously, it's about 11 times more motivating than pleasure is to avoid pain. Because if we have this thing inside of our brain that says something like, but if you go and jump the fence to the land of color, these people, they might judge you. And if I'm judged by my clan, then I might get kicked out. That's a threat. And if I'm kicked out, then I won't be loved and I won't be enough. And that's the one thing, my core wound I need. So fuck, if I chase the thing I ultimately want, I might actually not be loved. So I'll stay here and I'll give up on my dream because I want to ultimately be loved. But that's so unconscious. So then they sit there and go, I don't know why I'm so fucking miserable. I gave up on my dreams a long time ago, but I don't know why until they come to my event and we fucking find out why. 3 steps to transformational change. First one's awareness. You cannot intervene with a world that you can't see. So we help people become aware of their stories, their patterns, their habits, the things that played out that have kept them stuck, kept them from not taking action towards the things they really want. Awareness, next one is understanding. Once they change their perspective on it, they jump the fence. If they're looking at a fence that's black, and it's black, it's black, it's black, everywhere I'm looking, it's just black. I pick them up, put them on the other side of the fence, and it's white. They don't know what the fuck to believe anymore. Well, half it's black, half is black. So half is black, half is white. So what is it? Depends where I stand. So which side of the fence are you standing on? The one that's serving you or the one that's not serving you? Once you understand it a bit more, you're like, huh. And the neurons in your brain will connect. You ever had that thing where you're thinking and you're like, oh, it's hard to think. And then you go, oh, got it. Have you ever had that? Like a breakthrough. Neurons, synapses are coming together like this. They get so close. And then they connect. And you go, oh, now you can pass new information through it. I got the information. I got the download now. That's your neurons actually connecting and wiring in your brain, firing and wiring together. The third step is reconditioning. Like I said to you, I'm like, I have built this muscle to just see it like this because I've done it for so long now. And so through the change, we become aware that maybe I have this limiting belief that says, but if I go after all my goals and dreams, then I might fail. And if I fail, then I won't be loved. And my parents would think, I had a crazy one that said, if I'm as successful as I want to be, then I will be lonely, bored, and outcasted. And part of I teach this thing called our towards and away values, where I've taught us all around the world, and people are like, this doesn't exist. I'm like, bro, I teach them my method. I call it the magic pill technique, and they're like, fuck. I take people through this magic pill technique, and their life changes. Because we find this thing that's the biggest thing they don't want. And then we see how it's in conflict with the thing they ultimately do want. Because we'll do anything to avoid what we don't want before we do what we want. So I find, where's the biggest conflict? Change that and people skyrocket. When I figured that out in me, I took my business from about $20,000 a month to 4 months later, I did $180,000 in 1 month. Another girl, Taylor, she came to my event. She's doing $18,000 in a month. And I said to her, I'm like, we're going to take you through this magic pill thing. She does it. She leaves. 8 months later, she's helping me set up for the next event. And she says to me, she's like, Morgan, guess how much money I made this month in my business? I said, how much? She goes, $105,000. I'm like, that's amazing. What happened? She goes, I changed. I'm like, I bet it, right? Because we get rid of these things that are really steering the ship, because the unconscious mind is like 95% of all our driving power, right? We get this in alignment with what you're consciously calling in, and your goals and your dreams and the life you're calling in becomes effortless. That's how it should be. It should be simple to actually create wealth and have happiness and have the relationships and all these things. What happens is, from the moment you're born, you became a story-making machine and created lots of limiting stories, conflicts within, it's gone through trauma, who knows, and you've created limitations that have blocked you and stopped you from actually having everything to the capacity you want. Once you start to become aware of these things, you understand them a little bit different, we can start to recondition them and create a total different life.
I could talk about this for hours. I'm just so fascinated by it, because for me, when
You should come. I'll give him. Can we get him a ticket? Let's get him a ticket. I'll give you a free ticket. Come to the next one, but it'll blow your fucking mind.
I'm just fascinated by subconscious mind. I was learning a lot about subconscious mind when I went through the breakup last year, because I was just seeking all these answers.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck. It's my fault. I did everything wrong. Where's the answers? And then I went and seeked all these answers. And what I found was there was a lot of things that I was doing that was playing with the subconscious mind of my ex-girlfriend. And the way that she viewed me when we started dating wasn't how she viewed me subconsciously when we stopped dating. And for me, I was like so fascinated by it. I was like, okay, so the actions that I make now is actually affecting with the subconscious of her and how she views me. And so then I was like, okay, shit. So I'm not realizing this, but when I ask her what the problem is, she's just going to say, oh, I've lost attraction. When in reality, there's all this stuff playing in her subconscious as to why she's lost attraction. She doesn't even know it, I found. Have you found that happen before, or what?
It's hard for me to say without hearing the whole side of the thing, but what I do know, because we dive into relationships at the events as well, the biggest thing that stops attraction is feminine and masculine, right? It's polarity. There's a positive and there's a minus energy, right? Positive and negative energy. It's the whole world's positive and negative. That's attraction. Like two magnets coming together, right? Masculine energy is the positive. Feminine energy is the negative. It's in alignment. It will become attracted. Where you start to lose polarity or start to lose the attractiveness is when you start to lose what I just said, the polarity. Okay, so when the disconnect comes in this, like the energetics, you wake up next time one day like, I'm just not attracted anymore. And because there's three things that you got to avoid doing as a guy. There's three things you got to avoid doing as a girl. And if you just do these three things, you'll have a quite good relationship. I'm not a relationship expert by any means. But I've studied quite a bit of the stuff. I've interviewed John Gray, Men from Mars, Women from Venus, the #1 relationship coach in the world. And this is his methods, his models. And I like to take complex topics and simplify them. So there's three things you got to avoid as a guy. Right? These three things will kill the polarity in any relationship with a female. The three U's. The first one is unseen, unheard, and not understood. If the female or the feminine feels unseen, not understood, or unseen, unheard, or not understood, it will kill the polarity. They feel nothing turns them off more. And I do this in my rooms. I say, women, put up your hand. Who feels, what has to happen for you to feel unseen? And they'll be like little tiny things. Oh, when they don't notice that I got my hair changed. Or when they just stand next to me, they don't, when they order their food before my food. I'm like, what the fuck? Who would have thought in a man's brain, we would think that makes you feel unseen. But it means nothing about us, everything about them. That's how they perceive it. So if we can make the female feel seen, feel heard, and feel understood as much as humanly possible, there will be so much attraction there, so much sexual attraction that you could ever imagine. And for the females, the three C's that will destroy the polarity in a male is controlled, criticized, and closed. If we try to control them, because the #1 value of the masculine is freedom, right? Let us go slay the dragon. We'll go out, we'll kill shit, we'll do these things, we'll come back in 5 days. Don't worry, right? We just want freedom. We desire freedom, right? If you think back to in the first century, we would go out on these wars and come back a year later. Like, we're going out to kill, right? Freedom. Ah. People fight to the death for their freedom, right? That's what men fucking want so much. And so if the feminine tries to control it, you can't do that. You can't see that person. You can't go here. What about me? And then there's guilt things. The men usually, because we want to provide, was like, okay, yeah, sure. But eventually over time, someone's cheating because the polarity's fucked, right? Right? Someone's cheating. And it's not usually, and sometimes I say, like, if a man cheats in a relationship, is it the man's fault? Sometimes people are like, yes, the man's fault, fucking men. And I'm like, well, it's both. Because unless he's a piece of shit, which arguably could be, but most time people cheat because they're not getting their needs met, right? So closed off. So controlled, first one, criticized. If we get criticized by our queen, nothing kills us more. It's like, you can't tell me I'm looking. I already fucking know what's going wrong with me. I got it enough from the world. I'm putting myself out on the line every day. I'm trying to do these things. And I come back home. I want to come back to this safety. I want to come back to this love. If I get criticized, it's just like a dagger in the heart. And the last one is being closed, right? And I joke about this a lot with a lot of females actually in the room. I'm like, what has to happen for you to be closed off? And they're like, oh, when he leaves a cup out and this, or there's little things that stack up and they stack up. And I refer to they putting things in their handbag. And there's handbag. And it's not big enough for me to make a scene about it, but I'm just going to. And then you come home, you say, hey, baby, you all right? No, I'm fine. You're like, yeah, fucking no. Yeah, you're not fine, brother. Right? But it's being closed off is the biggest thing because we're like, why can't you be open? Because we desire to be the feminine, to be playful and be open with us. Right? So you're talking about losing attraction. If people just did that in their relationships, right? So the feminine, if they gave freedom instead of control, if they gave praise instead of criticize, if they gave playfulness instead of being closed, that man is yours forever. Mm. And with men, see her, love her, hear her. Don't try to solve her fucking problems. That's hard for us because we want to solve problems. So she comes home from work. I got a worst day. What happened? Oh, well, little Sally, she's doing this and this. And then instantly, man brain goes, oh, well, why don't you just change desks so you don't sit next to Sally more? And she's like, shut the fuck up. I didn't want you to fix my problem. I wanted you to just listen because now I don't feel heard. Mm-hmm. So we have to go, we know how to fix a problem, but we just go, oh, yeah, I hear you. Oh, and how'd that make you feel? And listen. Those three things will have the most juiciest relationship and long-lasting relationship. That's like the main thing we focus on in me and my partnership. I'm not an expert, but we just focus on these things.
Yeah, Simon Sinek says sit in the mud. Just like you don't need to pull them out of the mud. You just need to sit in the mud with them, and then they just need a vent. Yeah. Sometimes just get it all out.
So the male brain will solve a problem by thinking about it and then solving the problem. Like we are designed to fix shit. We want to just fix shit. Women will solve a problem by talking about it. Women will solve a problem. They will talk with their friends. They talk. And eventually, if they talk, then because they're far more intelligent than us. Far more intelligent. We're like, why is Facebook ads not working? They'll think about it. And then we go, oh, I know why. And they fix it. But a female will be like, oh my God, this and this, and talking. And eventually the talkingness of it, they'll solve their own problem. So what happens is we're blocking them from actually just doing what they naturally want to do because we're trying to solve it. Then it makes them feel unheard. They get closed off. And it's this downward spiral. And one day, like, why aren't we close anymore?
Maddie, I got a question for you. Can you contribute to this? What's something that you hate about, like, that a man does? Have you got something? Something on the top of your mind that's just like, fucking when they do that, I hate it. Straight into defense mode.
And how does it make you feel when they're defensive right away? Not heard.
Like they don't listen to what I say because they go straight into defending themselves. And it's like, did you even listen to me?
There you go. Not heard. That's one of the pillars.
That's it.
Before we wrap up, mate.
Every major problem has come back to one of these three things. I'm telling you.
One of the three things. So there you go.
Because you're not getting one of these three needs met as a guy or a girl.
Yeah. There's a few quotes. I'm only going to read one of them, so I'm going to pick one wisely that I wrote down. You were talking to me just before the show about these these little quote cards that you've been posting, and I pulled a couple of them onto my notes. It's funny, you did this to me when I was on your show. You were like speed round quotes. I guess I was blowing up of quotes back then, so it was quite fitting. Yeah. But
hard hitting quotes
that proper, you felt something.
This one hits.
Yeah, that was pretty hectic. But you said, I mean, I've said this quote. I think this was one of the hardest quotes, to be honest. Yeah. If you focus on the hurt, you'll continue to suffer. If you focus on the lesson, you'll continue to grow. You're like, did I post that? That was someone from the team. Oh God. You're like 100%.
We have about 600 pieces of content that goes out a month. I definitely don't create and post all of them. However, sometimes I do see a quote. I'm like, guys, that was really good. And I'll ask my team, and every quote does come from somewhere I said at some point. So my team will listen to my podcast and pull quotes, or they'll listen to our event content and pull quotes. And that's kind of what they do. So they'll throw a lot of them in. Sometimes that puts out, I'm like, that's good. Where'd that come from? Oh, you said it at day one of this event. I'm like, oh, great.
I love that quote though, because if you focus on the hurt, you'll continue to suffer. But if you focus on the lesson, you'll continue to grow.
So everybody has trauma. Everybody has trauma. And people who hold on to their trauma will hold on to the title of being a victim. If we're in a victim standpoint, we're never going to be able to learn from it. So every single room I've been in, I ask people, put up your hand if you've ever had something really fucked up happen in your life that you would not wish have happen on your worst enemy. Everyone's hands goes up. I say, keep up your hand. If you had a magic wand and you could go back and make that never have happened in your life, would you do it? And everyone's hands go down. Interesting. So why not? No, because it made me who I am. I said, good. Because here's the thing. Trauma usually will produce a negative emotion. That's why it feels crap, right? If we get triggered by something, because it's like you're poking a wound that hasn't healed properly yet. So the goal should become triggerless, not traumaless, triggerless. Because an event from the past without the negative emotion, you know what it's called? Wisdom. People learn through shit they've gone through. But if we attach the negative feeling to it still, then we're holding on to the part of being a victim still. And that's just like drinking poison and expecting somebody else to die. Like, I'm going to stay angry at this person because he did me wrong. She did me wrong. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Love, get over it. You're drinking poison thinking they're going to die. You're trying to be strong, but you're focusing on the suffering. You're focusing on the hurt still, and you're focusing on the meaning that you gave it. You're focused on the righteousness still. Sometimes people don't like to hear that, but the truth will set you free. All right? The truth is, like, you've got to learn through these things. But so if we can go back and actually not relive, but reanalyze any negative event from the past and let go of the negative emotion, anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, shame that we've attached to anything like that, we can let it go, and then we can actually see through the weeds for the lesson that the universe gave that to us for. Everything in our life is happening for us, not to us. But we think it's happening to us if we attach a negative emotion to it. That happened to me. That person came in my life. He did that. It's his fault. It's her fault. Well, no. What if you take that away and you stop naming, blaming, and you go, how did this actually happen for me? Now you start to trigger your brain. If questions will engage the unconscious mind and will help you determine what you focus on. What we focus on seems real. Our unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's fake. Like, everybody here can imagine getting a juicy lemon wedge right now and picking up juicy lemon wedge and sticking it in their mouth and biting it so hard. And I guarantee you, people's mouth would have been like, ugh, felt weird. But no one ate a lemon. Our unconscious mind doesn't know the difference. That's why I don't watch horror movies. Because my brain thinks that someone's trying to kill me. I feel my nervous system like, because my unconscious mind thinks that motherfucker's trying to kill me. So I avoid it. I don't like the stress of that. Some people I put on my social media once time, people are like, I love it. I'm like, well, you're probably a bit fucked up in there. Right? But like, do what you want to do, right? But what we focus on seems real. What feels real to us, we will then act out. We will do the behavior. So if we're in an unresourceful state, so we're focusing on the past event, we're focused on the anger from it, the sadness from it, the guilt or whatever, we're going to feel more immobilized. We're going to feel weaker. We're going to do less good action. We're going to do shittier actions, shittier behaviors, get shittier results in life. So the goal should be to look back and say, how can I make use of this? How can I focus on the thing that happened in my life? And how did this happen for me? Great question to ask. Engages the mind and makes it focus in a different area. Or maybe that person came in my life at that time to teach me how to love myself properly. Maybe that person came in and treated me like shit. So it taught me how to be the only person I actually need in my life. Instead of trying to get love outside of myself, I can give it to myself. Now, every single other person I'm in my life is the cherry on top. Fuck, good lesson. Right?
Focus on the lesson. Love that, love that, love that, love that. Is there anything else you think we've missed, or there's something that you've been pondering on recently, or something exciting that you want to share?
I don't think there's anything we missed. We covered a
We fucking covered a lot.
covered a vast amount of things in this episode.
Talk about your massive event that's at the end of the year that everyone needs to come and go to.
Yes. So we got Dreamfest coming up at the end of the year. I can announce it now because this will be live probably after tomorrow. We've got Kerwin Ray as the top speaker for us. So Kerwin Ray is the leading business strategist here in Australia. And we have Daniel G coming over from America to speak at this as well. Daniel G is one of the top sales trainers in the world. Both these guys collectively have like nearly 10 million followers. So it's going to be freaking amazing. So what this event's all about is the #1 growth event for entrepreneurs and ambitious dream chasers here in Australia. And it's 2 full days. We have a lineup of some amazing speakers. Obviously me, Kerwin Ray, Ryan Tuckwood speaking. We've got just some of the best speaking all day. We have DJs, we have after parties, we have VIP meet and greets. And on the 3rd day, we even have a huge ass after party we're hosting at a beach club. So it's the go-to thing. Like if you're serious about wanting to create freedom, create more success, have more money, have more happiness, you gotta be a fucking Dreamfest, man. And I wanted it this year to be an absolute no-brainer to get here. So we've made tickets like less than $50 for 2 whole days. It's nuts. Because last year we put in like a couple $100s. And I was like, why did I do that? I'm like, I just want to, let's just get as many people in here as possible. I'm like, I'm gonna make it really cheap. Like we lose money. I just want to, like, we crush it with other things. I'm like, I want this event to be the best freaking go-to entrepreneur event of the year. It's a festival. So it's sick. So we can give you the link and people can get it. If there's still like platinum tickets left, I suggest get on the platinum so you can come on the yacht. So we take the platinum tickets on a yacht on day 3. It's gangster. The speakers come and everything. It's fucking wild.
It's all happening. Super exciting, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, dude. Really appreciate your time. And if you guys are not sick of our voices yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, drop us a follow on Spotify or Apple and leave us a 5-star review, because I don't want no 2-star reviews unless you don't like Morgan. But no, I'm joking. Leave us a good review.
Don't make a story up about it.
And it helps the show grow, helps us get amazing guests just like Morgan just on the show. And we can keep growing together and tuning in weekly. So thank you guys so much. And I appreciate you, Morgan. I'll see you soon.
Appreciate you, brother. And you put my
I'll put all of Morgan's stuff in the show notes. So we'll put Morgan's deets there. We'll put his website there. If we have a link to the Dreamfest, we'll also put that in there for you as well. But Morgan has a podcast as well called The Dream Out Loud. He gets awesome guests all around the world on that show. I was first on that show as well. Not first on the show, but I went on the show late last year as well. And Morgan's a great all-around dude. So definitely check him out. If you've enjoyed this, you'll enjoy a lot of his other content online.
Love you, brother. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Thanks, man. See you later. Bye.